Good morning, good morning. I am so glad to see you all here at Unity in Harlem at 318 West 139th Street in New York City. And I also welcome you online. I can't see you, but I know you're here. And that feels very good, very good. Women's History Month. Unity has written a piece on divine feminine, and as you know, I always come with something that I'd like to read also. So since it's Women's History Month, I'll start with Unity's daily word, and it says, I bless the divine feminine in myself and all others. Today is International Women's Day, a time to celebrate women's achievements across societies and cultures. It is also a time to celebrate the divine feminine, which blesses all people. When I honor the divine feminine, I recognize God as love, compassion, understanding, aspects that are present in everyone. The world is blessed by the contributions of those who embody the divine feminine in their words and actions, from the steeliness of protection to the softness of comfort and nurturance. I give thanks for the girls and women in my life as I lift up and celebrate the divine feminine in its many, many expressions. And you can affirm, as I can affirm, the divine feminine awakens and expands in my heart and blesses and prospers all life. And Proverbs 31:31 says, give her a share in the fruit of your hands and let her works praise her in the city gates. And now, new thought, teachings, and principles were never thrust upon us. You've made the choice, and making a choice doesn't stop there. It's an ongoing part of your life. Here is a thoughtful excerpt from the theologian Howard Thurman from his Meditations of the Heart. He uses a clever visual to get his message about your God-given choice to make choices. And here is what he's written. There is in every person an inward sea. And in that sea, there is an island. And on that island, there is an altar. And standing guard before that altar is the angel with the flaming sword. Nothing can get by that angel to be placed upon that altar unless it has the mark of your inner authority. Nothing passes the angel with the flaming sword to be placed upon your altar unless it is a part of the fluid area of your consent. It is your crucial link with the eternal. You always have choices. And now I'll return to the service today. I welcome you again, and then we will have the Unity in Harlem affirmation, and then we will go and meet the minister. After that, I will return and give the announcements for the week in the Good News at Unity in Harlem. So thank you again, and here is the opening song, celebration song, sung by Marie Ponce. And thank you for coming today. Thank you, Marie.
Thank you so much, Annette Purnell. In God, I live and move and have my being on this International Women's Day. I'm thinking about I woke up thinking about the secunda drum and the primero drum of the Arawak people, my people. The secunda is female, is associated with feminine. It's the bigger drum, and it does the basic movement, the basic rhythm, and also it it symbolizes just being able to keep the land, to keep the house, and to keep everything that has to do with life. Boom, 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 boom. Very, very important. A lot like God. So I am the place where God lives, moves, and breathes, and has my being. I am the place where God shows up. That's what we're going to sing. If you know the song, please sing along. A different arrangement by yours truly. Just take those thoughts into your consciousness, your being right now. I am. Am I? Am I strong enough? Strong enough to bear the burdens that sometimes come, living this thing called life? Am I wise enough to make the right decisions when I'm standing at the fork in the road? Sometimes I wonder and I ponder, only to realize I'm not alone. I'm not alone. And there's nothing I have to do on my own. Because I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. Will I have enough? Have enough to do the things to take care of myself? Will I have the health of mind and body to live a life of grace and fullness? Sometimes I wonder and I ponder, only to realize I'm not alone, and there's nothing I have to do on my own, because I'm the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I'm the place where God shows up. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place. I am the place. You are the place. We are the place where God shows up. I am the place. You are the place. We are the place where God shows up. I am the place. Come on. You are the place. We are the place where God shows up. I am the place. You are the place. We are the place where God shows up. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has his being. Yeah. Wow, can you feel the presence of God in every single cell of your body right now? In your mind and your thoughts? As you walk around this week, think of that. I am the place where God shows up. He created me perfect in the way that he would have me be perfect. Perfect in my faults and perfect in my goodies. Perfect as God made me. Amen? Yeah. Bob Ponce.
Isaiah 55 verse 11 says, "So shall my word be that goes out from my mouth. It shall not return to me empty, but it shall accomplish that which I purpose, and shall succeed in the thing for which I sent it." Unity affirmations speak to the power of our words, and particularly the power of I am. And so we say this affirmation every Sunday to affirm our divine nature. The words are on the screen, and I invite you to say them with me. I am an abundant, radiating center of God's love and light for peace, healing, and inner truth for all.
Thank you, Marie, and thank you, Bob. And it's good to be with you all this morning. And welcome to Ask the Minister. This is the first time I'm doing Ask the Minister here with Unity in Harlem. Those of you who've been, connected to me or followed me or know me for much longer, this is a thing I do a few times a year. Why do I do an Ask the Minister? So when you think about church and a Sunday morning service, what usually happens? We have people singing, and we have people giving announcements, and we have the minister who gets up, gives a sermon, a talk, and then maybe some fellowship, and you go home. But what I've realized over the years is that because I, as a minister, decide what I'm going to talk about on Sunday, and more often than not, it's something that we can all relate to, there are specific questions or things that people are wondering about that I don't cover in my sermons. I generally have a good sense of what's happening in the world and what people want to hear, but not a mind reader, and I don't always know exactly what you want to know or ask of me. And some people will, set up a time to come have a coffee or sit down with me and ask, but most people kind of don't have that time. Some people think their questions aren't important enough to take my time, and I always assure them that there's nothing that you're thinking or wanting to know that isn't important enough for me to put time into it. So I do an Ask the Minister every once in a while, and I invite folks to submit their questions, things that they're wondering about, things that are on their mind and their heart, things they're struggling with that I can address on Sunday. It makes it a little more interactive. It makes it a little more, I am listening to you as much as you're listening to me. And I got some good questions that came in the last week or so that I've been advertising this. But if you're watching live right now, I want you to know that if a question comes up for you, you can ask it. So if you're watching live and you have a question that you want to ask that you didn't turn in before, in the comments, if you're watching on Facebook, if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and type in your question. There should be enough time for me to get to it. And if I don't, I'll either address it in a separate talk or in the comments, or I'll save it for the next Ask the Minister. I plan to do one of these every quarter. So if you don't hear your question answered today because of time, don't worry, I'll get to it. Okay, so let's just dive into the questions that I got this week. Some of them are fairly logistic type questions. Some of them are some more deeper, profound questions that made me had to think for a minute. And I think they're all questions that everyone maybe can relate to or have wondered at some point in time. But regardless, here we go. So the first question is, why do we meet on Sundays for church and not Tuesdays, for example, or any other day of the week? Why is church always on Sundays? And you might think, well, that's pretty obvious because, Sunday's the Sabbath in Christianity, so we do church on Sunday. It wasn't always this way, okay? The Sabbath, because as you know, Christianity came out of Judaism, okay? And in Judaism, the Sabbath is honored, observed, celebrated, sundown Friday to sundown Saturday. The early Christian church, they actually had their gatherings on Saturday, just like the Jews that were living alongside them. So what happened that it switched to Sunday? The short answer is Emperor Constantine. So if any of you know your Christian history, you know that around the 4th century, Constantine was the first Roman emperor to convert to Christianity and then made Christianity the official religion of the Roman Empire. Before that, the official religion was kind of this cult religion called Mithraism. And one of the elements of Mithraism was worshiping the sun worship. And they had a special day to venerate the sun, a day for the sun. Sunday, that's what it was. And it was basically the day after Saturday. So when Constantine became a Christian and was trying to establish Christianity as the religion of Rome and the Roman Empire, right? He had some of the subjects, the Roman subjects, the Jews were celebrating on Saturday. The early Christians, were celebrating on Saturday, but then he had the rest of the Roman Empire, which followed Mithraism, celebrating on Sunday. So we had these two conflicting days, and he decided that this is too much. We need to bring folks together. Now, what's interesting about Mithraism is that one, it was incredibly popular. There were more people observing and following Mithraism than there were Christianity. And the other interesting thing, fun point for International Women's Day, is that Mithraism was only allowed men. Women were not part of Mithraism. They were specifically excluded. It was called a soldier's religion. It was, connected with strength and domination and conquering and all the things. So what Constantine decided was he would now declare the day of the sun, the Sunday that the folks who observed Mithraism in the Roman Empire were already observing. He declared that now this will be the day of rest for Christianity. And soon after, all the Christian celebrations that were happening on Saturday got moved to Sunday. In fact, shortly after this declaration, there was a council of Laodicea, and they passed a law requiring that Christians must not Judaize by resting or observing on Saturday. Had a little anti-Semitism flavor to it, yes, but that was what they were trying to do, establish Christianity and push Judaism out. So they moved everything to Sunday to align with Mithraism. So now you have your new Roman Christians and your Roman pagans celebrating on the same day, and soon it eventually all merged, and Mithraism was eventually phased out. We're just left with Christianity and worshiping on Sunday. So basically, Constantine decided, I'm going to appropriate a pagan religion that was already established, put Christian things on top of it, and we're going to have a new celebration. And it wasn't done with Sunday only. Christmas was the same thing. The reason why we celebrate Christmas on 25th of December was, even though we don't know the day Jesus was born, there was originally a pagan festival happening on that day, and they just decided, we're going to call it a Christian festival, we're going to celebrate the birth of Jesus, and we will ease out the old religion. There are some Christian denominations, movements that observe the original Saturday worship. Obviously, Seventh-day Adventists do that. They have their church services on Saturday, the seventh day, as was the original Christian practice. Then there's some Middle Eastern churches, especially in Muslim majority countries, that hold their services on Fridays because locally that's the rest day. So it varies, but I hope that answers the why on Sunday question. Related to that, on church, we do things when we come together, including prayer. So this is the next question. What are your personal equivalent of prayer habits? So I think this question is directed to me personally. So let's talk about what prayer is, first of all. And no matter what faith you belong to, prayer is generally understood as you are in communication with God, personal, one-to-one, or collective. As a spiritual community, you are communicating with God in however way your particular religion, faith, denomination practices prayer. So in unity, because we believe God is principle, not a being to pray to or beseech or praise, God is a principle that resides within us. We say in unity, we don't pray to God, we pray from God, because we are the embodiment and the manifestation of the divine. The principle that is God resides in, through, and as us. So, what we do is in unity, we have affirmations that remind ourselves of the divinity that we are. So, my personal prayer practices include affirmations that remind me of who I am. I am love. I am abundance, especially when I am struggling in areas in my life. There's a practice we have called denials and affirmations. So that's one practice. Meditation is also a way that I commune with the divine. And when I say commune with the divine, what I mean is really I just sit without intention and just notice what arises while I'm sitting in that quiet space. It's how I get to know myself, and I have this saying that if I want to know God, I got to know me. I'm the person that I can know the best, and I'm God. God is me, just as God is you. So if I want to know God, I got to know me. So I sit in the silence, meditation. I also commune with nature, because I think that's another place where we are free from all the distractions and business of the world. And it's not just good for our mental health, it's good for our spiritual health. My current favorite way to commune with nature right now is I'm here in Lisbon. My apartment's on the fifth floor. It's on one of the highest points in the city. I believe it is the highest point in the city, where my apartment building is. And I can look out the window and see birds flying. And it's so high, sometimes I am looking down on the birds as they fly, which is really surreal. Usually, if I say picture a bird flying, you're looking up at the bird. But looking down at the bird, that's a whole other thing. But on mornings now, when I'm sitting and I'm reading, I look out the window and there's a flock of maybe 30, 40 birds. I think they're pigeons or closely related to pigeons. But there's this flock that just flies in circles and swoops up and down as this one body of birds together. I think murmuration is the word I'm looking for. Murmuration usually implies like hundreds of thousands. This is like, 30 of them. I tried counting once. It wasn't easy. But these birds just fly between the buildings and up and down, and they're soaring. And I am absolutely mystified and in awe just watching them move as one. It really reminds me of the principle of oneness. They're moving as one. There's never just one bird in the lead. They all seem to be taking turns. I don't understand how it works. I'm sure if I were to ask the AI bot out there, they would explain to me how it works, but I don't want to know how it works. I just want to sit in the mystery. I want to sit in the awe of it and just appreciate that I too am part of this natural experience. And I just watch. And sometimes I'm sitting there and like 30, 40, 45 minutes go by. And that's my communion with nature right now. And there's walks in the parks, sitting watching the river, all the things. So this is how I practice prayer, because it connects me deeper within myself and reminds me of who I am as a divine being. The next question, and this is an interesting one. Someone says, "What if there's no God?" Fascinating question to ask a minister. What if there is no God? So whenever someone asks me a question about God, I usually respond with the following question: what does God mean to you? Because when someone asks if there is no God, there's a certain God they have in mind, whether they know it or not. There's a certain idea, concept, belief about God that they have in mind. And it doesn't matter if they still believe in that God or not. That's what they hold in their minds. And as we know, our idea, concept, belief about God evolves over time. For many of us, the God that we began to believe in when we were children, that first idea, what we call the embedded theology, we no longer believe in that. Even if the kind of hardwiring is still there, we don't believe in that idea. So, in essence, you could say God changes over time because we change over time. So for myself personally, I grew up believing in a more anthropomorphic idea of God. That is, God is was a person who was always watching me, and I was supposed to obey God. I was supposed to worship God. I was supposed to pray to God. I was supposed to follow God's commandments, and it wasn't a good thing if I didn't. And that was my first idea of God. And then now here I am as a unity minister. God is principle for me. And now actually it's I'm leaning more and more over the years into the unknown, into the let's remove all the definitions of what we think God is or ways to explain God and just sit with whatever's left. What happens when you strip away all the definitions, understanding, and meanings of God? What are you left with? Right? As great Master Yoda said, what if we unlearn what we have learned about God, regardless of what denomination or movement you belong to? I believe that's when we really begin to truly be at one with God, all that is, love, whatever you want to call it. So, in some ways, to really fully understand, connect, have an experience of whatever your understanding of God is, you almost have to get rid of God, get rid of your definitions, your understandings, your meanings, release them all. Because as soon as we have definitions and ideas of what God is, we have limited what God is. So get rid of those and see what's left. So that's the first part of me answering that question. The second part is if there is no God, it forces us to reconsider the meaning of existence for us, the meaning of life, and how we understand things. Whether you realize it or not, so much of what we think about, like morality, why we exist, how we exist, death, the afterlife, or place in the universe, is very much connected to religious beliefs. Okay, for some time, the church, religion, that was how we understood and defined morality. Okay, if you think in the Christian concept, the Ten Commandments, for example, that was our guidelines for morality. So if we don't believe in God, those go away. So now what determines our morality? How do we know what it means to be moral? And there's different approaches you can take. Humanism is a great example. I consider myself very humanist as well. So, you know, when we think about existential ideas, right? In the Christian concept, and even New Thought Christian, it's like there's God's will, there's your soul's purpose, there's, you know, what spirit would have for you to do. If you don't believe in any of that or in God, now what happens? Well, self-determinism. You get to choose. And I believe that. That's why, you know, even in unity, when people talk about God's will, I say God doesn't have a will because God's not a person. If in unity we believe God is a principle cannot have a will. A principle doesn't want, a principle doesn't need, a principle just is. You know, so think of the principles of physics that you might know, like gravity, for example. Gravity just does what gravity does. Gravity doesn't want, gravity doesn't have any needs, gravity is not disappointed, gravity hasn't preordained what I should be and how I should show up in life. So if we believe God is principle, same thing applies. God does not have a plan for your life because God doesn't plan. People plan, not principle. Okay? Principle is how things operate. So for me, if we get rid of all that, then we get to choose. I get to thoroughly choose and completely choose how I show up in life, what I want to do, and there isn't some deity out there who is saying, "Oh, you're going against my will," or "I've prescripted how your life should be." Um, think about death and the afterlife. If we who believe, some of us believe that our soul exists and transcends this body. So when this body dies, the soul continues to exist. It may reunite fully with the oneness consciousness. There are many ideas, beliefs, theories about what happens after we die. But if we don't believe in the existence of a spiritual soul or God, then what happens? You might believe that when this body dies, that's it. Our existence and any element of who we are is gone. And that's a scary concept for some people, which is why many folks create these stories about what happens in the afterlife. But regardless, I always say to folks, doesn't matter what you believe happens after you die. I'm more concerned with what happens while you're alive. So, how are you going to choose to live as a moral person, as a kind human person? Are you going to choose to live as a greedy uh, person who does harm? How are you going to be in this lifetime? So, whether you want to choose there's a God or not a God or the kind of God you want to believe in is entirely up to you. There's not a right or wrong here. It's what you're most comfortable with, what makes you a better human being in your lifetime. I think that's very important as well. And yes, following many spiritual principles does make you a better human being, but you don't need those to be a good human being. All right. I want to check in with Bob real quick, if he's monitoring the chats, if there's anything that came in on Facebook or YouTube. Bob, if you don't mind taking a quick look, and let me know in a few minutes if anything has come in. Let me go on to my next question. It says, as a unity pastor, how do you mesh with pastors of more orthodox religions? Orthodox is in quotes. What are those interactions like? How do you react if you feel they're judging you for aspects of your life, such as being polyamorous? So I'll start by saying I've reached a point in my life where honestly I don't care what people think about me. Water off a duck's back. I don't take things personal as much as possible, from the four agreements. And so if people choose to judge me, that's on them. I'm not taking that on as well. And what I also know is that when we judge others, which is, thing I do sometimes from time to time, when we judge others, it's mostly based in misinformation, misunderstanding. Okay. So for me, it's less about you judging me. It's about, can you accept me even if you don't agree with the choices that I am making in how I live? Okay. So that's where that also answers the part about meshing with other pastors. I doesn't matter to me what you believe from a religious standpoint or a spiritual standpoint, or if you're atheist and don't believe anything at all. That doesn't matter to me. What matters is, are you able to accept me and anyone else, regardless of if you agree with their religious views or not? Can you simultaneously stand in a place of acceptance and disagreement? And if you can, then you and I are going to get along great. And I've gotten along great with other clergy from different Christian denominations, from different religions over my time. I've been friends with rabbis, with imams, with Buddhist lamas, with folks from other New Thought Christian movements, even mainstream Christian movements like Presbyterians, Episcopalians, Methodists. In fact, I co-host a podcast called Pub Theology Live, and it's me, a Presbyterian minister, and a United Church of Christ minister. Three different Christian denominations. I like to say unity is barely Christian, but we have very different beliefs about God and spirituality and the nature of existence. But all these folks that I just mentioned above they're very progressive, very open and accepting, do not discriminate, and I'm going to get along with you if that's where you come from. If you don't, and you are exclusionary and you discriminate, and especially if you use religion as your excuse for doing that, then you and I are not getting along, right? And that happens with other Christian ministers. That's happened with rabbis. That's even happened with other unity ministers. So yeah, it's less about the religion and more about how the clergy person applies the religion. Okay. Quick side note, part of that question is aspects of my life, such as being polyamorous. And if you don't know what that means, just a quick snippet about that is um, polyamory is a different way of relating romantically and sexually with other people. So, for example, the cultural and in many cases religious norm is monogamy. You create a romantic and sexual relationship with one partner, and you stick with that partner. Maybe you get married, maybe you just live together, but it's a one-to-one connection. Um, Polyamory is a form of what I call ethical non-monogamy, which means I engage in those relationships with more than one person, and we all know about it. We all talk about it. We all are aware that we are all practicing that form of what I call open relating to each other, not closed. Monogamy tends to be a closed unit. Polyamory is open, and one is neither right nor wrong. It's all about what your choice is, and also how you were practicing it as a human being. Are you being kind? Are you being compassionate? Are you being loving? Or are you doing it from a place of selfishness, greed, and hurting other people? So, whether for me, it's not about how you practice your romantic and sexual and emotional relationships, is how you show up in them as a kind, loving, compassionate person who does no harm. That matters more to me. But you can Google that and look that up on your own if you want to know more about that. I think we got a question that came in. How do you deal with the anxiety that is present due to world events? That's a great question, which someone actually asked as part of these list of questions. Um, and I'm going to get to that after the next question because they're kind of related. The questions that came in, I sort of put them in a flow. I think that they relate to each other from the start to the finish. And that question is a great question about the anxiety is related. So let me start with this question first because it's a world events question. Okay. And here's how the question reads. Outside, there's a war between nuclear powers, the threat of sleeper cells, and an incompetent, malicious domestic government. What in Unity spiritual teachings or principles can prepare us as individuals and as Unity in Harlem to meet this moment? So that's the first question. The second one, kind of related and also related to the one that just came in. How do you truly find joy amidst all the fuckery happening in the world right now? I don't mean just the positive mindset, nothing lasts forever thing. That's how the question is worded. And now there's the how do you deal with the anxiety that is present due to world events? So I'm going to lump all of these together in sort of a long answer. But whoever turned in that question just now, thank you for asking. All right, so let's talk about war to start with, because as we know, that's the big thing in the headlines now. Okay, first we had the U.S. going and doing regime change in Venezuela, and now they're bombing Iran, and Iran's firing back, and like it's messy. It's not messy, not just messy. It's deadly. It is dangerous. Things could escalate. And quick side note, the more literal Christian faiths that believe this is the precursor to Armageddon and the end time so that Jesus can return, they're using this as this justification to support the war and support President Trump. So sometimes our religious beliefs do more harm than they do good. Okay, so just gonna pin that up there. So if you know someone who's like, yes, this is what Armageddon is. This is the precursor to the end times, and therefore Trump is being used by God and is a vessel for God to bring about this final war, so that the end times can happen and Jesus can come back. Please tell him no. A couple of sermons ago, he talked about how that whole story in Revelation is not meant to be taken literally at all. It's not a story about our end times. It was a story written to indicate the fall of the Roman Empire thousands of years ago, which, by the way, did come to pass. But so there's that. Side note. So what does unity teach us about war? And how do we respond to war? So to back up, we have to remember that in unity, we take a metaphysical approach to everything. Okay, not just the Bible we read. Everything that happened and is happening is a reflection of our inner journey. Okay, so in unity, when we speak about war and think about war, it's a reflection. War is a reflection of an outpicturing of fear, of anger, of separation, of greed, of lack consciousness. All of these things is what leads to war. Okay? Discrimination, which is from separation, not realizing we're one, and fearing the other. All of these things, a sense of domination. All of these things are reflections of, I guess, the human ego and not the divine self. So what unity teaches is war is a outpicturing of this, and our response needs to, first of all, be an internal response. Okay? When war happens, it can cause in us feelings of fear, feelings of anxiety, of anger, of separation, of lack consciousness. Okay, the very feelings or that inspired those who make war to do war, they happen in us as well. Okay, I'm sure when this Iran war started, many of us were afraid of what that might mean, not just for the U.S. and the soldiers in harm's way, but for everyone, for the world stage itself. Okay, so what unity says is address what's happening within you first. Shift your thoughts from fear and separation and lack to thoughts of love, of oneness, of abundance. Remembering that we're all connected. What happens to one affects all. And let us not buy into the illusion that war has any real power over our ability to love. War does not have power over our sense of oneness. War does not have power over our consciousness of abundance. So I mentioned this earlier when we was talking about prayer. A common unity practice is denials and affirmations. To see the war happening, but within us, use our affirmations to remind ourselves that those feelings that are being stirred up because of war, they truly are not the most powerful feelings within us. Love is more powerful than fear, even though sometimes it doesn't feel that way. It's the truth. Abundance is the more real consciousness than lack. So it's oneness over separation. So we first shift our thoughts and our consciousness around that. Charles Fillmore, co-founder of Unity, said, the only way to establish peace is to have the spirit of peace in our own hearts. Peace is a state of mind, and it must be developed from within. Ernest Holmes, he founded Science of Mind, which became religious science and is now Centers for Spiritual Living. He wrote, war is the result of the belief that there is not enough to go around, or that one group is better than another. To stop war, we must realize the unity of all life. There's no them and us, there's only one. So what we have to do is first take care of our own inner consciousness, and then live from that with the belief that as we live from it, we also encourage others to live from it as well. Okay. There's a temptation, and this often happens, to just take care of our own internal stuff. And that might look like, oh, I'm not paying attention to that war. I'm just vibing on love. I'm just taking care of what's happening within me. I'm focusing on the here and now, what's in front of me. I'm not paying that any mind. And we ignore it, we spiritually bypass, and we also ignore the people who are affected by it as well. There's a temptation to do that. We have to fight that temptation and follow Unity's fifth principle, which tells us it's not enough to know these truth principles. We have to live them, we have to practice them. So, how do we live and practice love, oneness, abundance in such a way that it impacts the world around us, whether it's our small world around us, friends, family, colleagues, people we meet on the bus, or even wider? Because if everyone on the planet lived from a consciousness of love, oneness, and abundance, we wouldn't have wars. Wars would be over. Okay? So that's Unity's approach. And how you show up as love, how you show up as oneness, how you show up as abundance, do it in a way that helps to shift the consciousness of oppression that runs through the world. So, for example, as we mentioned at the top of the service, thank you, Annette, today is International Women's Day. Okay. And we in this world have lived for centuries in this consciousness of patriarchy. And patriarchy tells us that men and male folk are superior to women, or superior to anyone that isn't a straight male. So shifting that, okay, we live in a consciousness of love and oneness, we will realize that, yeah, the only difference between men and women is biology, and that's what it. Right? We not one of us, men are not superior or not innately superior to women, or vice versa. Although women do have the exceptional gift of being able to bear life, so one up on us for that. But patriarchy has instilled energy and consciousness of domination, of greed, of self-absorption. So these are antithetical to love. So by shifting our consciousness, we can begin to shift that as well. And recognizing women as equals is one of those ways we do that. And equals is such a, I hate saying that, but recognizing that patriarchy has done the damage that it's done. And in fact, there's a clear idea that to shift out of patriarchy, we have to adopt matriarchy. And matriarchy is not just, women doing the same roles that men did. It's an entire shift of how we view each other and the world, and how we share. Patriarchy tends to be this hierarchical structure, whereas matriarchy tends to be this circular, all-inclusive approach. So that's kind of how we respond. Okay, so that also a little bit addresses the anxiety question. But what also addresses it is how I'll answer this thing about truly finding joy among all of what's happening. Because joy is something now we have to intentionally and actively seek out and practice. Right? There was a time maybe when just happy, great stuff happened to us and we didn't have to think about it a lot. But all the messiness of the world is becoming so overwhelming and coming at us so fast, especially in this digital information age and beyond. We can't not see all the mess that is happening. And we shouldn't look away from it all. We have to be able to face it. I talked about this in previous sermons, where love is a container that allows us to be angry without looking away. Because if we look away, we won't think there's anything that needs to be changed. So we have to keep seeing, but we don't have to become inundated with it. So be very mindful as to how much news you're taking in. Please do still take in news, right? Um, and actively seek out opportunities for joy and pleasure. Okay. Actively seeking and living from joy and practicing pleasure is one of the ways that we take down systems of oppression, capitalism and patriarchy, capitalism especially, which tells us that we're only as important and worthy as what we can produce and the work we do, which is not true. Okay. So, how do you find joy? Think back to when you were a kid and the things that you thoroughly enjoyed doing, or even as a younger adult, or even things in your life now. What do you enjoy? What brings a smile to your face when you think about it? Right? What gives you like happy goosebumps? What makes you feel alive? Therapist Esther Perel talks about we have to live in a place of the erotic, and the erotic is what makes us feel alive. We think of erotic and we think of sex because sex helps us feel alive, but other things do as well. Okay, so what makes you feel alive? Are you making the time to do them and not just leaving them as if I find time, I'll do whatever? Are you consciously, proactively making the time to do the things that make you smile, bring a smile to your face? And more importantly, are you doing them with other people? Because it is truly when we do it with other people, we connect with other people, that it makes us feel more joyful, right? Especially if these are people from different backgrounds, different genders, different orientations, different ways of doing relationship, different belief systems. When we are having fun and doing joyful things with these folks, it breaks down the barriers. And and what we do is we relate to them from a place of joy, from a place of love, and one less reason to create war. So for me personally, here's the things that I make time to do that bring a smile to my face. I play tennis as well. Um, it's a thing I did as a kid, very poorly, by the way. I've never been good at tennis, but I've always had fun. So I go play tennis right now. I love live music. There's this amazing like jazz club slash restaurant, like a 15-minute walk from my apartment. It is so small, like the whole place could fit into my apartment with room left over. And I don't live in a big apartment, but this is how it is in Lisbon. Just these small little nooks of restaurants. I mean, the stage is probably as big as, two beds put together. It's a very small place. But every night there's live music. It is amazing music. Brings a smile to my face. Reminds me of the time I was a struggling jazz musician, and makes me want to get back into playing, which I plan to do. Okay. Some nights I go to pub trivia, go to the bar, meet up with some friends, and it's trivia night. Love me some trivia night. I am reaching a stage in my life where I have like memory recall issues. So I'm not usually a lot of help when it comes to pub trivia. But every once in a while, I'll know some random thing that nobody else knows. One night there was a question related to Barbados, and I was the only one from Barbados in the whole bar. I felt so great about myself that night. Okay. So brings a smile to my face. I mentioned earlier that I practice polyamory. I like to go on dates with people, even if it doesn't come out to any other relationship. I might make a friend. Some of my closest friends I have right now are we maybe went out on a date once or twice and realized, nah, this is we not vibing, but we are very cool people, and it's hard to meet really cool people in the world today. So we're gonna stay as friends. So I've had some friends for years. So I have fun doing that. So this is how I find joy in my life. So the question becomes, what are you doing to actively seek out and practice and find the joy in your life, and let that joy fuel you? It can fuel you for your resistance work. It can fuel you to endure all the bad news that keeps coming. Okay. So, how do you truly find joy? You got to keep looking for it and realize that the it's not going to be a permanent state of being. Okay. Just like the sorrow and despair from watching all the news is not going to be a permanent state of being, even though it feels that way, because there's so much of it. So you gotta look for the joy. If you're not sure, like just go try something new, see if it resonates. Get on Meetup. There's an app called Meetup. Look, yeah, especially if you live in a big city, there's always flyers of things happening. Go take a candle making class. Go like try a new sport. I don't know. Yeah, but you have to look for it. You have to put in the effort as well. Question to come in. What instrument do I play? I've been playing piano since I was 8 years old. I also play guitar. I play bass. I play drums, like the drum set, a lot of percussion instruments. I don't do a lot of playing right now, but I also, for about 10 years, was a music therapist and a music teacher. So music was part of my work for a long while. And I've been a church musician since I was 12 years old. I played in church bands back in Barbados. I've been music directors of Unity churches. So making and playing has always been an integral part of my life. And most of you know I was married for about 16 years. My wife passed away 10 years ago, going on 11 years now, from cancer. She and I used to make music together. She was an angelic singer and a sucky piano player. I was a great piano player and a sucky singer. So we were a great combination together. As long as I was playing and she was singing. If we switched parts, it didn't turn out so well. But we wrote music together. We wrote songs, some of which they still randomly sing in Unity churches across the place. But when she passed away, music making actually became a bit of a grief trigger for me, and I stepped away from it for years. I couldn't make music without thinking about her and being grief stricken. Took a good 7-8 years to begin to make music just for the joy of it for myself again. And I had to remind myself, this was who I was before I met her, and it will continue to be who I am after she's gone. It just took a while for me to get there. And now I'm in a place where I'm like, I got to get me some instruments in my apartment. I'm settled. I'm not nomading around anymore. I get a keyboard in here and a guitar, and we'll go from there. But that was a real long answer to that "what do you play" question. I like to give a little background and context. I'm looking at the time, and we're almost out of time, but one last question I will address because it really will be a short answer, and the question is longer than the answer. It says, New York is having a honeymoon period with its new mayor, New York City. Seems to be opportunities to build more community relationships and not just talking head stuff, but practical things like clearing snow. Are you/the church open to connecting with the Office of Faith Partnerships? This is an office in the New York City Mayor's office. And the person writes, challenge the congregation to form a team so it's not just you going. You'll probably have a good reception if you want to be part of something larger than what you could do on your own. So the short answer is yes, I am open. I'm sure we at Union Harlem are open as well. Some of us are. So if there are any of you who are there in the church or watching and you live in Harlem, in the New York area, and you want to get together with us and form a team to explore this faith partnership department with the mayor's office, let me know. We will make it happen. And to the point that this person says in the question, I have learned the hard way from my experience of a church pastor is that I am not going to do it myself. I don't think anybody should do anything in the church just by themselves. Come together as a group, as a team, connect with others, involve others. So yes, I'll be doing some looking into that and putting out the requests for others. Someone says, will we hear you play during the service? That is entirely possible. In a perfect world, maybe someday Unity of Harlem will have a band of musicians to accompany Marie live with her singing, and maybe once in a while I will sit in. But I don't want to become that minister who does the speaking and does the playing and does the handing out the bulletins and does the, getting all the food for hospitality afterwards. This is not a one-man show, the least bit. Like, I know what I'm good at. I'm not good at all those things. So but one never knows. Yeah. Hey, if you can get me a keyboard by Easter Sunday, maybe for Easter Sunday service, I might do a thing. We'll see what happens. But that's it for today. That is all the questions I got. Those are my responses to them. I'm not going to do a meditation today. I'm seeing the time. And I know we still have to talk about the good happenings. We still have to collect the offering. We still have some things to do. But what I want to invite you to do who are listening to this, whether it's live or after the fact, I want you to do a couple of things. I want you to notice which of these questions or the answers really resonated with you, made you think a little bit more and sit with what's arising in you. See if they lead you to more questions, which you can either send to me or sit with yourself to see what's arising. And the question about the finding joy, I really, really want you to lean into that one more than any other thing, because it is easier for us to navigate being resistance fighters, being the embodiment of love and compassion, and feeling a consciousness of abundance and wholeness when we are happy. And joy, engaging in joyful activities, especially with other people, is what brings a sense of happiness to our life and makes us remember that, no, the entire world is not a bad place, not a messy place. And there's some of us here who are the embodiment of light and love, and we have to connect with them. This is how we get through these times, by being the embodiment of healthy, wholesome resistance and dismantling the system of oppression, but also being the embodiment of love, of oneness, of abundance, and joy, what we in Unity call the unofficial 13th power. So thank you so much for those of you who sent in questions. Thank you for those who are watching live and asking in the moment. And thank you for being supporters of Unity in Harlem. I do want to remind you that I will be there in person 2 Sundays from now, going through Easter. So please, if you are in the area, come to service, connect with me. I would love to meet you in person. There we go. Starting March 22nd. I think that's 2 Sundays from now. So please, and we have our Easter Sunday service coming up on April 5th. Please, if you can, make an effort to be there in person as well. I'll be there. We're going to have a great time of connection. So that's it for me and Ask the Minister. Let's take a moment to bless our offering, first collected from there in the center. And those of you watching online, if you want to make a donation, please visit bit.ly/Unity in Harlem, bit.ly/Unity in Harlem, and you can make an online donation. Consider if these talks, the meditations that we do, anyway Unity in Harlem has served you and you want it to continue serving you in some way, please consider making a donation. And let us pull up our affirmation. And let's say it together. It's on the screen. Together. Divine love flowing through me blesses and increases all that I give and all that I receive. And now I'm turning back over to Annette, who will come and tell us a little bit more about what's going on in the community.
in on a meditation. There has been personnel changes, and so this has to be updated also. So by next week, you should have that updated information. New in Harlem has a Tuesday study group that has been continuing and will continue until the book is finished. It's called Finding Yourself in Transition by Robert Grummett, and it meets on Tuesdays from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Unity in Harlem also has a study group, so we're offering two. A study group on Monday from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. And Rev Ogun is holding this session, and the book is called The New Spirit. I didn't mention earlier, the Tuesday group is still run by Reverend Carol Hunt. Unity in Harlem continues to have the prayer circle. The days are different. The one prayer circle is on Monday at 6 p.m. and the other prayer circle occurs on Wednesday at 10 a.m. So we offer those two for a time to just come apart and have a time to be quiet and be in prayer, or to ask for a prayer for a particular reason. Reverend Ogun can be reached for pastoral care by this number, and it'll be on your screen. It's 978-992-7297. And he welcomes anyone who is in need of pastoral care. Next Sunday, we will celebrate Black History Month, and we will honor Reverend Carol Hunt, and she will pass the legacy torch to Reverend Ogun Holder. So that should be a very moving and exciting time. Reverend Carol Hunt is the 10th minister to have a church in Harlem through Unity. They varied in length, and through the work of one of the members, Nancy Causey, we found out about the names of those ministers. So it should be a very moving time to know that the legacy of a Unity Church in Harlem will continue and has continued. And now, I mentioned before, the early registration for people of African descent, New Thought Groups organization, will have a conference. And here on the screen, you can see it. It'll be at Unity Village in Missouri. It'll be on Thursday, the 12th of 13th. Thursday, August 13th till Sunday, August 16th of this year. And you on the screen can see where you can go to the QR code and register. The registration form on the internet is long. It asks several questions about where you would want to stay, if you want to order a t-shirt. The t-shirts have been really nice over the past 4 years, so I encourage you to get a t-shirt. However, the big thing is that there's early registration until the 31st of March, 31st of this month. After that, it increases at about $41 or so. So if you can think about registering for the conference between now and then, that'll be great. Also, they've added something new this year. You can pay in part. You can do 50% of the bill now and then 50% later, but it'll all be explained on the registration form. And also, as they did 2 years ago, they have a youth program at the same time so that parents who want to come, or grandparents, or whoever the significant other is, can have the youth come also and learn in New Thought. And it is a wonderful time to be in a cohesive group thinking about similar things, being reinforced about things you have come to learn and are still learning and still feeling. Think about what Reverend Ogun said about how you find joy, how you use joy. Because coming to this conference is one of the ways to be with other people and to be in that space of creating the joy and ideas for yourself. So I highly recommend you go to the website and don't be daunted by how long it is. I don't want you to start, but be prepared. So have your credit card ready so that you can fill out the form and register. And so now I have finished with the good news for unity in Harlem, and we will have our song of inspiration sung by Marie Ponce. So thank you again. And thanks, Marie.
Thank you so much, Annette Purnell and also Reverend Ogun Holder. Lots of really interesting information and an opportunity to find more joy, to actually do that as an action and have that as a goal. That is really amazing, and connection too. Let's sing Use Me. Oh God, I stand for you, and here I'll abide as you show me all that I must do. And give me lots of music, yeah. Here we go. Yes, use me, oh God, I stand for you. Use me, oh God, I stand for you, and here I'll abide as you show me all that I must do. I used to think God was the sun, God is the sun, but God's so much more than the earth and the stars and all of creation. God is creator, makes all things new, and God frees us to shine his light as me, as you. So use me, oh God, I stand for you, and here I'll abide as you show me all that I must do. All I'm saying is, command my hands. What must they do? Command my life. It's here for you. God is the that heals all creation. God is creator, makes all things new, and God frees us to shine his light, and God has us as his light, and God knows us as light, as me, as you. So use me, oh God, I stand for you. you show me all that I must do. Oh, yeah, Jesus, I shine His light as me, as you. So use me, oh God, I stand for you, and here I'll abide as you show me all that I must do. Show me all that I must do. Show me all that I must do.
Thank you, Marie, as always.
Yeah, I need
Glad
that
your phone's your
piano
way. Glad
player.
your phone can get through that. It's a good one. Ah. Always so grateful for you. Grateful for Uni in Harlem. Let us close our time together first by saying the prayer of protection on your screen. Everyone together. The light of
Light of
God
God,
surrounds us. The
the
love
love
of
of
God
God
enfolds
enfolds
us.
us.
The
The
power of
power of
God
God
protects
protects
us.
us.
The
The
presence
presence
of
of
God
God
watches
watches
over
over
us.
us.
Wherever we
Wherever we
are,
are,
God
God
is,
is,
and
and
all
all
is
is
well.
well.
I appreciate you all staying with us a little extra longer today as we navigated through those answer minister questions, and I hope they served you in some way. Let us end with our peace sign. Take it away, Marie.
All right. Peace song. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me and you and you and you and you and you and you. All of us. You too. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as creator, family whole are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
All
Have a
right.
good week, everyone, and happy International Women's Day.
Thank you so much. Yay. Thanks for being with us.